When you take a moment to think about what it actually took for our characters to gain the Titan-shifting power of the Colossal Titan, you start to wonder, did we really win? Did the last surviving members of the Survey Corps, did they win? Because let's just look at everything, okay? In that blind death charge, with Erwin Smith leading it, all of the new blood, all of the fresh recruits got wiped out. And honestly, it was rare just to see that many join the Survey Corps after everything that's happened. They all got wiped out in an instant. Erwin Smith lost in this episode, and a bunch of other veterans as well lost throughout this battle. And when you really think about it, it seems like everything had to be given up just for us to obtain the Titan-shifting power of the Colossal Titan. You cannot say that this was a full-on victory. This was a major blow to humanity itself, and that's what it meant for the decision that Levi had to make when it was him choosing between Armin or Erwin Smith, because they're both very major players for humanity, and Levi became very aware of that when he was tasked with the situation, tasked with, deciding who lives and who dies. And it's not something that, I think is easy for anyone. No matter how stone cold you are, if you are around people and you make connections and all that, you're going to grow fond of them, you'll have friends. And you can see from everybody's perspective, they all had their own emotions running wild that controlled the overall outcome. And you would think that with Levi having him having that, serum on him, he would kind of stay neutral between everything. And he would use the serum and weigh which is more important. But in reality, when you really look at the situation, the real reason why Levi was so desperate in saving Erwin Smith was not just because he was a good commander, but it was because he was his friend, and he wanted to save him. And so, he could not really blame Eren or Mikasa and all that for being angry with him wanting to save Erwin Smith when they wanted to save Armin, because they both had their own feelings they had to work out. So it was a very difficult episode, a very difficult moment for our characters, and I think many are going to just leave this episode with sadness. Even if you like Armin and all that, and you're glad that he survived, on the other hand, you're going to be sad that Erwin Smith died. It's a really sad death. And that's, once again, what these past few episodes really wanted to show, of how important these two characters are. And I even talked about that in my last episode review, of how Erwin Smith was a con man. He went so far as to con himself, lead people into battle, he died with them, and he did lay down his life. He was being truly selfless. And then you had someone like Armin that was always a selfless person, but was selfish at the very end and sacrificed himself just for they could beat the Colossal Titan. And it just shows that both characters have their own drive, their own will to continue pressing forward and to get the job done if they must. And so you cannot say one is better than the other. The only thing that you could really weigh at the time between the two characters was experience. For instance, Erwin Smith obviously is a lot older. He's been around for a lot longer as a commander, so obviously he would have more experience, which does make sense why it would be obvious to save him first. But at the same time, though, there was more at stake than just who was the better commander. We also had to look at who was the more broken person. And I think that's what it came down to in the end, and what Levi had to choose between. And so let's get right into that. To kind of explain, when he's talking at the end of the episode, Levi, about Erwin Smith and why he chose Armin, is that he wouldn't think it's right to bring someone like Erwin Smith back. And the reason why is because Erwin Smith, throughout his entire life, we know he's had an ambition, a dream, to be able to see what's in the basement, to find out the truth of the world. That's always been his objective. He's always wanted it, and that's the reason why he's came so far, why he's stacked up piles of bodies just to be where he's at. And even though he's done so much, he kept going forward because it would be, disrespectful if he backed down and didn't continue forward. For instance, after the first few deaths, if he backed down and went away and never achieved and kept moving forward, it would disrespect those that died for him. And so he kept going forward, and as the journey began, he became more and more broken. He was literally forced to become a demon, a devil, which was stated in this episode, just for he could get what he wanted, but also in turn save humanity. And it's very clear when you look at Erwin Smith's track record, he is someone that really has a high body count. Like, when it goes to him leading the charge and all that, usually when he's saying an epic speech or he's in front of his men leading a charge or whatever, usually he has a high body count when it comes to his operations. Which, even though he does, he has in turn saved a lot of people in the walls, civilians. But he is someone that had to become a necessary evil, just to get the job done. And obviously, after everything he's put people through, many might hate him, dislike him, because he forces them in the situation they're in. And that is why one of these, Survey Corps members in this episode was so upset. He's like, honestly, I was going to end his suffering. I was going to put him out of his misery when I saw him there on the battlefield alive. But I fought against it. And the reason why is because it would be too easy. It'd be too easy for this man to die like that. He needs to be brought back to be thrown right back into this hell that we're currently in. And that right there is what really summarizes what Erwin has been dealing with for a very long time, and how broken he is. He's someone that's had to disregard his own humanity just to get where he's at. And in those final moments when Levi told him to, you go out there in the front lines and you die, it was kind of like him finally being able to be free. Like, he was finally free. He was a caged bird that was finally able to fly. Because he no longer had to have the weight on his shoulders dragging him down of all the deceased that he has sacrificed. Even though he did not get the dream he wanted to be able to see the basement and to see what is out there, the point is the man, it would be so disrespectful to him as well to force him to come back from the grave, basically, to continue to fight. He would fight, he would be a hell of a commander and do a great job, but he would be nothing but a husk. He would be just a zombie at one point, and that's the sad part about it, the sad truth. And so that is what Levi really had to weigh. He had to weigh who was one that could keep going on and wouldn't just fall and just constantly get tormented. See, Armin, he's rather new. And so because of that, he hasn't gotten to experience everything that Erwin has. And obviously, that's the reason here. That's the point. Is that enough is enough. Erwin Smith, he's done his job. He's been around for a long time. Let the man rest. Let him rest in peace. While Armin is new blood that is very intelligent and a very good benefit to humanity, and can definitely showcase and pull his own weight as time moves forward. So like I said, it's a great episode. It's a great episode just to showcase how those two characters are. And I think emotions were running high for everyone. Not just the characters within the story, but us as the audience. And I know for a fact I got very sad while watching this episode just because of how important this was for the future of the story. And even at the end, I think many are going to be very conflicted on Bert's death as well. Bert is someone that obviously has caused a lot. Like, you could kind of say indirectly, because of him opening up the wall, and then the Armor Titan as well, he has sentenced thousands to their death. A lot of people have died thanks to him, and in turn, Aaron's mother. So technically, seeing Bert die in this episode, it's kind of like the very man that's killed so many innocents finally died. And it's kind of ironic that he died in a very similar way as Marco. If you remember a few episodes back when we found out the truth behind Marco's death, he was getting eaten alive, and all of the traitors, Annie, Reiner, and Bert, watched him just get devoured. They didn't do anything. They just watched him die as he was screaming for help. And that's pretty much what happened to Bert. He was being watched while he was getting eaten alive, and in his final moments, he really showed what type of person he was. He showed that he was still a crybaby. He was someone that could do to others, but couldn't deal with it himself. He wasn't able to accept his death, and that's kind of, once again, showing the difference between him and Armin and Erwin Smith. That is a big, important part of that moment as well. Because, once again, Erwin Smith sacrificed his life. Even though, obviously, he wanted to see the end of the road, like he wanted to be able to see the basement and all that, he still laid down his life. He was willing to look death in the face, charge it, and die. While you have Armin willing to look death in the face and die. While Bert looked death in the face and was crying. And it showed that he was never truly a Survey Corps member, or at the very least fit to be in his position, because he was willing to just throw everybody else's lives away, but he wasn't able to do it for himself. There you go. So, it's a great moment. It's conflicting as well, because I know that there is probably some that do like Bert as a character, but honestly, I think he deserved it. He really did deserve it after everything that he has done. He deserved that. He did. So I think that's pretty much about it. Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about this week's episode of Attack on Titan? Do you think that it was the right decision to save Armin, or do you think that it should have been, Erwin Smith? Be honest. I really am curious to see what you all think. I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.